Welcome to the BrightWord Books Podcast. BrightWord is a leading platform for diverse storytelling, where voices from all backgrounds can share their unique narratives and connect with readers from around the world. Follow our regular podcast updates, where we strive to foster a literary community that celebrates creativity, inclusivity, and the transformative power of literature. Good afternoon, and welcome to the BrightWord Books Podcast. I'm your host, John Lobb, and we're pleased that you've joined us for another intriguing conversation this afternoon. Ruth Leedy Carr, an Indiana University alumna with degrees in journalism and psychology, has emerged as a significant figure in the study of hollow earth theory. In fact, she's hailed by UFO researcher William L. Moore as the world's leading proponent. If you're not familiar, hollow earth is a concept proposing that the planet Earth is entirely hollow or contains a substantial interior space. Carr's book, Polar Hole Light in Europe's Clouds, challenges established scientific beliefs about Mars and Earth by delving into the controversial hollow planet theory. With an impressive 4 decades of research, Carr offers a compelling argument against the traditional views of polar ice caps on Mars, supported by recent NASA findings of wet rocks near Martian poles, not ice fields. The book answers questions about the physical composition of Mars, but also examines Earth's structure. Carr explores the possibility that Earth's hollow shape will make the shift extremely serious. She raises vital questions about the sustainability of Mars and Earth, the motives behind concealing such data, and the implications for future planetary research. Some really intriguing concepts. Ruth, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
What was the original spark, Ruth, that inspired you to write Polar Hole?
Well, I got interested through the book Edgar Cayce, The Sleeping Prophet, which was written by Jess Stern. And after reading that, I read Raymond Bernard's book, The Hollow Earth. And it seemed to me that the hollow earth theory answered the questions raised by the Cayce prophecies. In other words, what was the nature of the light that was going to appear in the clouds around the time of the shifting of the poles? And the answer was that that light was the inner sun of the planet, hollow planet, the inner sun around which the shell is in orbit. And the reason why that you have to have polar holes is that orbiting matter cannot remain stationary at the axis. So if the axis shifts, the holes would have to shift due to centrifugal force, and then that light would shine up through the new hole and be seen by whoever's living in the area of the new hole. In other words, prophecy about light in the clouds is really a warning: get away from that area. If you know what I mean.
Gotcha. Very intriguing. What kind of research did you do, Ruth, to develop the book's setting and plot?
Well, I realized that all of this needed to be proven to be true. And so I started reading all kinds of earth science books. And I read Marshall Gardner's book, A Journey to the Earth's Interior, and he presented photographs of Mars and his argument that the bulging polar brightness must be coming from the interior sun through polar openings. And I looked at George Gamo's book, Planet Called Earth. He had one of those same photographs. He identified the polar ice brightness as an ice cap. He said it was the polar ice cap, the way he put it in his caption. But at the time that he wrote this book, there had been no space missions to confirm what that polar brightness really was. So for him to say definitely what it was really scientifically not justified. So, I read Isaac Asimov's book, A Choice of Catastrophes, and I read Walter Sullivan's book, Continents in Motion, New Earth Debate, and Ursula B. Marvin's book, Continental Drift, Evolution of a Concept. a lot of standard textbooks I read and just looked for evidence that would fit the hollow planet theory, and there seemed to be quite a bit.
Excellent. How did you decide on the pacing and structure of the story?
I relied a lot upon hints and symbolic representations by Isaac Asimov and Carl Sagan, as well as I fitted that in with symbolism from the Grail legends and the prophecies of Christ, and also prophecies of Edgar Casey. I sort of a continuum through that there was hollow planet symbolism in all those areas. Not a lot, but enough to establish that the Grail legends contained Hollow Earth hints, and Asimov's work contained Hollow Earth hints as well.
Gotcha.
That it was an issue which couldn't safely be spoken about by experts because there was a powerful cover-up. They just simply weren't allowed to speak openly about it. That's the premise of it. And I have revised my interpretation of the riddles of Isaac Asimov and Carl Sagan. I revise all that material constantly. I'll go over riddles again and again and again and change them. So a lot of the riddles in Polar Hole Light in Europe's Clouds do not reflect my present interpretation, and it's frustrating to me to see an interpretation that I no longer agree with. But the major riddles, Sagan had one which contains the words Earth axis shift as well as field reversal. And a field reversal is the event that changes the location of the magnetic poles, which causes the solar wind to define another axis at the magnetic poles. So for him to include all those words in this one name, to me, seems to be more than a coincidence. In fact, the character in his novel, Contact, the character actually was a doomsday prophet, which makes it even more difficult to just dismiss the riddle. One of the major riddles from Asimov is one that can a pair of names that each of which contains the sentence "Planet Earth be hollow," and you can, in other words, name can spell that message. And it may not seem like much of a coincidence to other people, but if you look through all of Asimov's work and you can't find that sentence spelled out in any other character name, and yet there are two that these characters in the story, perfectly formal characters, are not only together in the same story, but they were engaged. So there's a connection there between these two characters, and their names both can spell "Planet Earth be hollow," and the name Hober Mallows can spell "Mars be hollow."
Interesting.
And it just so happens that Hober Mallow, well, the S was added in his novel Foundation's Edge. A character referred to the Hober Mallows and the Salvor Hardens of the past. That's why the addition of the S enables you to get the message "Mars be hollow" out of the name. But this character, Hober Mallow, was a planetary head of state, which makes him really eligible to be a symbol of a hollow planet if that message is in his name, which you can find it there. I mean, you could probably find something else in the name if you were looking. But to find Mars be hollow in the name of a character who politically represents a planet is, to me, more than a coincidence. It's what I would consider a powerful hint. But,
absolutely. So Ruth, does Polar Hole represent for you, is it literal or symbolic, or is it both?
I would say it's literal because, as I said, if the Earth is hollow, the shell has to be rotating around the central sun. Otherwise, it would collapse inward due to gravity. And so, if it's rotating in the manner of a spheroidal planetary nebula, has the same shape, if it's rotating around the central sun, the hole has to exist at each pole because orbiting matter cannot remain stationary at the axis. And there are explorer reports of visits to the interior. Not many, but on February 25th, 1992, the tabloid The Sun carried a story called "There's a Hole in the Pole," in which a Danish explorer, Edmund Borch, recounted his own trip with his crew into the interior, and he also gave a history of other explorations in the interior, including William Shaver's, the Admiral Richard Byrd supposedly flew in an airplane through a polar opening. That's been disputed, but that's one of the major claims. And other reports, Leif Erikson supposedly might have gone in, and also Fridtjof Nansen, a Danish explorer, was in the far north during the time of the winter darkness. This is reported in Marshall Gardner's book. During the time of winter darkness, and yet he and his crew sighted a small reddish bronze sun in the sky, and in his diary he recorded that it was a mirage of the sun, and that just seems to me ducking the issue. I mean, if you see a light in the sky, probably not an illusion of light. It's a light of some sort, and there aren't that many things that can create a light in the sky, and so those are the main explorers that I can name. But that's one of the rare stories that might still be available. I can supply anyone who wants a reprint of that article. I can supply that article from the Sun about
Excellent.
expedition to the inner Earth, supposed expedition. I mean, I don't know whether he actually went. Maybe the article was made up as an excuse for him to report what other people had done. But anyway, there are persistent reports along this line. It's not something that's never been reported. It has been reported.
Interesting. Wow. Ruth, what do you hope readers will connect with? If you pick up the book, do you want them to connect with the characters or the world that you're exploring and describing? What do you hope a reader will take from your book?
Well, my book doesn't have a plot as such. I hope that they will connect with Isaac Asimov and Carl Sagan as experts. Sagan being an astronomer, of course, and Asimov being a science writer of renown. I hope that they will understand that both of these experts were not totally free to express themselves on these issues. They presented riddles such as I are not free, from the name Tyrone Free, or well, I won't go into all the details, but they explained brain is disabled, please decipher and share riddles. I mean, that I could find that message in a character name from Asimov's work.
Interesting.
Well, it's very hard to prove from a single riddle. But anyway, I can prove that Asimov did riddles because he did his wife's name in his final novel in a very obvious way. The first name of the character was Eejan, which is an anagram of Janet. That was her wife's first name, and her last name was Jepson, and that was rearranged to form the name Popjens, Popjens. Then the character in the book had an additional name, Lih, at the end, which suggests that you can take the name of his wife, Janet Jepson, and use the final three letters to help to construct a message about his wife. And I'm not saying that this is a cataclysmic message or has anything to do with the Hollow Earth. I'm saying this is an example which he provided to prove to readers that he was doing riddles, to make it very obvious. That's really the most obvious example of a riddle in Asimov's work. But then there's another name. There's a name in Foundation's Edge in which he inserted an anagram of his own name, as originally spelled. Azimov was the original spelling, and he changed that to Ovizam, and then inserted Avizam into this name, which is Endomandio Visama Rondeazo in Foundation's Edge. A very, very long name. But inserting his own name into that implies that he wants you to take that name out and then say, I, Asimov, say, and then make a message out of the rest of the name. Of course, I'm not saying that it's easy to find the correct message, but I'm just saying that by doing what he did with the name, he was indicating that he had something to say, that he was basically signing this riddle. He wanted you to work on this riddle, and there was an important message, and that's why he inserted his name into it in a scrambled up form. But that's the kind of thing that indicates that he was laboring under pressure or duress.
Absolutely.
And also there was one of the clearest signs was the fact that he put a message, 3 names from his novel Nemesis. He inserted into the letters adjacent to commas and apostrophes in his name, in his story Frustration from the Gold Collection. I went through that story. Well, I went through a lot of stories, but anyway, in this particular story, I went through and listed the letters adjacent to every comma and immediately before and after every comma and apostrophe, which are identical. They're just placed in a position. So, and I came up, in this long list of letters, I came up with 3 names: Mary, Tessa, Renee, R-A-N-A-Y. Those 3 names, character names, are from his novel Nemesis, in which the Earth is threatened by the approach of a star, which is being kept secret from the people of Earth. And so it seemed to me that by putting these 3 names in another story and basically referring you back to the novel Nemesis and saying, read my novel, basically, that's the clearest message I could get from finding those 3 names, referring you back to a very cataclysmic novel. He seems to me to be referring you back to that novel and saying, read my novel and take its message clearly as a reflection of a true threat to this planet, not just a story, a real threat. Well, there's more that could be gleaned from this matter of the commas and the letters adjacent to commas and apostrophes, because you can also get the word Celts, C-E-L-T-S, out of that same list, where Mary, Tessa, and Renee can be found. And there was an additional word that perhaps should go into it. But then in the end, when you take all those words, all you've got is the beginnings or the makings of a riddle. And so then the argument has to be, have you decoded it correctly? And so really the most interesting and helpful thing about this coded message is the 3 names themselves, which just to me clearly indicate that he has a secret message that he wants you to understand. Even if you don't understand exactly what the message is, just the very fact that he's put these names into another story secretly, indicating, read my novel Nemesis. Just the fact that he did that, even if you don't understand what he was getting at, the fact that he did that secretly should be a sign that he's working to overturn some sort of a cover-up of information we need.
Interesting. Wow.
Well, that's just the way I see it. I mean, somebody else could say he just did this as an amusing parlor game of some sort to entertain his children or his his fans. But I just think that if that was all there was to it, he wouldn't have picked a cataclysmic novel like Nemesis as the source of the three names. You know what I mean? He would have picked a more entertaining story.
Absolutely. Ruth, how long did it take you to write the book, and like from the first concept to your final draft?
Polar Hole Light in Europe's Clouds took me about maybe 4 or 5 months. But I've written numerous newsletters and other books I did in the 1980s. So it's not like I
was going to say, maybe you had the concept in your head for years and years, and then the process of putting it down on paper was not as long compared to the amount of time you spent thinking through it.
Yes, I'm really, with each book, I'm really saying the same things. I'm just trying to find a more effective way to express it so that people will understand that it's important, that it's not something I just imagined, made up. The message is the same in each book. It's just that I try to, well, in journalism, your task is to try to grab the reader by putting something important at the beginning of the story, whatever it is, and you want to put something that's with a story like this. You want to start with something that they're going to believe, they're going to find credible, and with the Hollow Earth theory, you're working at a disadvantage because people have such a negative view of the theory. So it's very hard to start the book with something they're going to believe. So that's
I hear you. I hear you. Is Polar Hole a standalone, or could there be a sequel?
Well, I wrote another book while I was waiting for that one to be produced, and that the title of the new book is Tipping Point for a Hollow Earth. It has a subtitle too, and that's. I just received 2 copies of that, and I still have to do some paperwork as far as, I don't know, my taxes, before the book actually comes on the market. So, but Dorrance is going to release that book soon.
Excellent.
And I'm working on another book too, but that'll be.
And you're a busy woman.
Well, I'm trying to resolve this issue while I still have my faculties about me. After all, if I've been working at this since 1980, I'm not a young woman. I would like to resolve it while I'm still able to do so.
Well, it sounds like you're very able at this point.
Oh,
here's a fun question. If Polar Hole were turned into a movie, who would you want to have direct it, and who would you think could play characters in Polar Hole?
Well, I suppose the plot would be about some Danish explorer who took his crew to the interior of the Earth. And who would I want to play the parts? I suppose it should be someone from Denmark, because both Edmund Borch and Fridtjof Nansen were from Denmark. And so, I mean, I don't know who the star would be from Denmark, but someone from that country would be the most likely to undertake this expedition. And the story, I suppose, the story would be whether the crew was able to get out, or whether they were detained, and because there's evidently a cover-up, and it must be emanating from the interior. And so it seems to me that anyone who comes in there exploring and trying to find out information is liable to be detained and held and imprisoned indefinitely. So that would be part of the plot, whether they were able to escape.
Got it. Well, this is just a fascinating discussion, and I'm really intrigued by the whole topic, and I think our listeners and readers will be as well. Before we run out of time, Ruth, are there any other thoughts that you want to leave with our listeners today about your work or about the novel?
I think people should study the photographs of Mars that were taken on August 4th, 1969 by the Mariner 7 probe. And they are from Patrick Moore's Guide to Mars, the 1978 edition, from Space Science and Astronomy, edited by Thornton and Lou Williams Page, from the Encyclopedia Britannica from 1974, and also from Pictorial Guide to the Planets, Joseph Jackson. Those 4 books contain photographs from that date, and they all show the lighted South Polar cap, or light cap, really, on the night side. And I figured it out geometrically that it has to be on the night side, but I'd like to have other people who are more expert, who are more trusted experts, who examine those photographs and verify that the light caps on the South Polar light cap can't possibly be on the day side, except for perhaps the very right edge of it.
Gotcha.
Because when a planet goes through phases, the perimeter, it's like the phases of the moon. The perimeter can be illuminated for 180 degrees, and that's true whether it's a crescent moon or a almost full moon. It's still only 180 degrees of the perimeter is visible, and that should be the same on Mars. And so the light cap, the polar cap, is beyond that limit, because the sun's bright reflection should be at the center of that 180 degree arc, and it's obvious that the polar cap is way out of bounds as far as being on the day side. So if people would study those photos, I should think that would help to establish the truth about Mars, which would help to establish the truth about Earth.
Absolutely. And as they say, a photo is worth 1,000 words.
Oh, well, maybe so.
Well, Ruth, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a very intriguing discussion. Our guest today has been Ruth Leedy Carr, author of Polar Hole Light in Europe's Clouds. And I assume, Ruth, the book will be available on Amazon and other retailers?
Yes, it is available.
Terrific. Well, I think based on this discussion, there's lots of folks that want to learn more about this concept, myself included. It sounds very, very interesting and certainly worth more exploration. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We appreciate you being with us.
You've been listening to the BrightWord Books Podcast, home of the literary community that celebrates creativity, inclusivity, and the transformative power of literature. Don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss future episodes. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.